Yesterday, the Detroit Lions made several announcements in regards to players that were injured in the game against the Cardinals. However, though, a late addition was added, and this player has massive ramifications for the Lions moving forward. Stay tuned, we're going to talk about it.
What are we? What makes us what we are and what we're going to be? It's grit. It's what we started with last year, guys. Doesn't matter if you have one ass cheek and 3 toes. I will beat your ass.
Can definitely compete with the big dogs.
10-5 end zone touchdown Detroit Lions.
You guys are unbelievable, man. I'm telling you.
We are driven by Detroit.
Hello, Detroit Lions fans, and welcome on back to yet another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. I'm your host, David T. Pike, and as always, we're diving on in. My friends, I'm going to tell you this right now. Yesterday, the only episode I released was talking about injuries, and I was specifically talking about the Marcus Davenport injury and why that injury is going to be one that is going to potentially have an impact on the defense. And you know what? There was a whole bunch of other news that came out about the injuries as well. You know, obviously the fact that Aleem McNeil is considered day-to-day, Sam Laporta is considered day-to-day, Brian Branch as well because he's in the concussion protocol, and obviously that Derek Barnes, his injury is going to have him out for quite a while. We don't know if it's going to be longer than that as far as, you know, maybe going on IR, if there's going to be anything else. We just know it's going to be for a while. And I'm going to say this right now. At the time, I thought, okay, it's not great news as far as all these guys getting hurt, but we can manage this. Then, however, came what I would like to call the unexpected bombshell. Late last night, there was reports that came out from Woodward Sports, and it was, posted all over Facebook, Twitter, whatever, that center Frank the Tank Ragnow has now got a partially torn pectoral muscle from the game against the Cardinals. I'm going to say this right now. For Lions fans, this was a blindside move because we thought that pretty much all the injury news had already been, kind of laid out there and we knew what to expect. The fact that Frank Ragnow's news came out like super freaking late, like we're talking like late, like 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, that's like a bombshell because it's like, okay, that was not talked about by Dan Campbell during the press conference. That was not talked about during after the game or any other point. That was just literally just kind of dropped out there all by itself. So it's like, okay here. It's a blindside move. And I'm not saying the Lions did that on purpose. I'm just simply saying the information itself is very surprising. It's very shocking. And the reason why that's the case is because let's understand the true significance. Let's understand the importance of that injury. Number one, Frank Ragnow is the best center in the league. I don't give a damn what anybody says. There is not a center better in the NFL than Frank Ragnow. And I will fight that one to the death. Frank Ragnow is that damn good. And because he's that damn good, take a look at the role he plays on this offensive line for our offense. He is a massive cog in this entire offensive machine. He literally, as the center, is the middle point of the entirety of the line. He's the anchor. So everything, first and foremost, starts with him. Literally, he's the guy that snaps the ball, number one. But also, number two, he's the guy that primarily handles all of the protections when it comes to the offensive line. He's the guy that's observing, hey, where is everybody at? Where's the linebackers at? Do we need to adjust protection schemes? And he's going over that also with Goff at times. So, for Frank Ragnow to have an injury like this is not good news. Because as soon as I heard of the injury, I was like, okay. The first thing that I thought about, not to, bring the name back up, but it's a similar injury type, was when C.D. Deuce had his pectoral muscle tore. Now, the only difference between those two is when C.D. Deuce tore his pectoral muscle, it was a clean tear all the way through. This is a partial tear. Now, how much of a partial tear? Don't know. It could be really small. It could be, somewhat moderate. We don't know how much of an actual quote-unquote tear there is here. But here's what we do know. If you go on Google, and again, I'm not trying to say I'm a doctor, I'm not trying to pass off medical advice or medical expertise. I'm not any of those things. But from what I could find, the recovery time for a partially torn pectoral muscle pretty much can range anywhere from 4 weeks to 12 weeks. Think about that, folks. You're talking about this injury being anywhere from literally a month to 3 months recovery time. Now, I'm going to say this. I do not expect that this to be a, 12 week or an 8 week kind of injury. Again, the report was that Frank Ragnow is now considered week to week. So for me, it's like, okay, that already gives me a slight ray of hope, because if it was not week to week, then that would tell me it's a much more serious kind of tear than what we're thinking here. Plus, on top of that, we also have to understand the kind of player we're dealing with here. Frank Ragnow is a beast. This guy has played through various types of injuries throughout the course of his career. He's played through knee injuries, he's played through foot injuries, he's played through a throat injury, he's played through a literal bevy of injuries and still keeps coming back, and he's still the same type of player regardless of injury. Now, I'm going to say this right now. I would be shocked if Frank Ragnow were to try and play through this week. In fact, I would say this. Do not expect Frank Ragnow until after the bye week. I'm already guaranteeing that in my brain. I'm not even thinking about Frank Ragnow playing, because trying to play with a partially torn pectoral muscle is bad enough. But for an offensive lineman, where literally every single damn play, you are literally having to engage your arms, which means you have to engage your pecs, you have to engage your biceps, you have to engage your traps. You're engaging those every single play. That is a huge strain on those muscles. And it's like, listen, not only are you moving your 300-pound frame, you're trying to exert that amount of force on another 300-pound body. Another defensive lineman or a linebacker, whatever the case might be. I'm telling you this right now. While the report said that Frank Ragnow is week to week, like I said, I'm not expecting him back until after the bye week. There's no chance in hell he's playing this game up against the Seahawks. And since we have the bye week on week 5, we don't have to worry about that. So the absolute earliest I could see Frank Ragnow playing, suiting up again, would probably be the Dallas game. That's the earliest I could see him coming back. Now, I know this for a fact. This is very, very unwelcome news, because it's like, dude, how many more freaking injuries are we going to have to hear about? Because it's like, at this point, we've got literally 6 or 7 guys on the injury report. One of them we've already lost for the year. Another one we've lost for a substantial period of time. The rest are considered kind of day-to-day. And now we've got Frank Ragnow, who's probably going to be out at the bare minimum at least at 3 weeks to 4 weeks. That's the bare minimum. That's a lot of injuries from one damn game. I mean, for crying out loud, I think the Lions had our own version of the body bag game, because it's like we had so many players that left the game with injury, it's kind of ridiculous. But the way I look at it is that for the Lions, the offensive line is probably the one area where I think we can survive this kind of thing. Because first and foremost, the offensive line has got great continuity to it. We have 2 really good guards. We have 2 great tackles. What I think the Lions are probably going to do in Frank Ragnow's absence is they're probably going to shift Graham Glasgow from guard to center, and then they're probably going to plug somebody in to play that guard spot. Now, whether that's Swordsel, whether that is anybody else that we potentially have, I don't know. Obviously, the Lions are probably going to figure out who's the best fit for whatever, kind of shakeup they do for that offensive line group. But for me, I just think that from a personal standpoint, moving Glasgow to center where he's had positional knowledge at that, particular spot in the past would make the most sense. And then you could put somebody in at guard, and that would probably make the easiest transition for most people. So that's what I think the Lions are probably going to do while Frank Ragnow is out, at least for the, foreseeable future, like the next couple of weeks. Again, I'm not expecting him to play against the Seahawks, which is a damn shame, because I was hoping that we were going to have most of our starters playing in that game, because we're definitely going to need them. The Seahawks are one of those teams that have always seemed to have our number, and I desperately want to kick their ass. And losing Frank Ragnow is going to make that ever more difficult. So, definitely not welcome news. But, again, this is kind of like what Dan Campbell has said in the past. It's like, hey, nobody's going to feel sorry for us. Nobody's going to give us a pity party. Nobody's going to say anything that's going to be like, hey, you know what? We feel sorry for you. You just got to go next man up. You got to go out there. You got to do your job. And if we realistically think about it, the Lions have been trained. The Lions have gone through this stuff before. So, yeah, while it sucks, we're prepared for it. We've been mentally prepared for it. We're physically prepared for it. The depth that we have is pretty damn good. So again, we can sustain a short-term loss of a player like Frank Ragnow. That's why, even though the injury sucks, I'm at least thankful in one aspect that it's not a season-ending injury, and it's not an injury to where he could be potentially out like literally 2-3 months. I'm thinking, like I said, Frank Ragnow's probably going to be out for about 4 to 6 weeks. 6 weeks at the maximum, 4 at the bare minimum. And the very earliest, like I said, would be the Dallas game, which is 3 weeks away. But either way, folks, again, not good news, but it could be worse. And that's why I'm going to take this as, like, hey, just got to kind of look for the silver lining wherever you can. You got to, just dust yourself off. Got to roll with the punches, and you just got to keep moving forward. But having said that, I just wanted to get this out because this was some really late-breaking news last night. I didn't obviously get a chance to push it out because it was way too late, so I wanted to do it earlier this morning. So having said that, I'm going to end the episode and say thank you all for watching in another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. If you like what you saw, by all means, I highly encourage y'all to watch the next episode. Also encourage y'all to do one of these 3 things: like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. If by chance you subscribed in the past and you forgot to do so at the time, I want to highly encourage y'all, please, make sure you hit that bell notification icon so that way you guys never miss any more content that I push out. Also want to encourage y'all to share this content with your Lions friends and family members. Share it here on YouTube, share it on Twitter, share it on Facebook, share it anywhere and everywhere you can with everybody and anybody that you can. The more we can share it, the greater the channel can grow and spread, and the more we can bring in new viewership. And having said that, whether you've been a long-time viewer or this is your first time viewing the content, I hope you all enjoyed it. I also hope everybody out there has got something in their life that makes them happy, makes them smile. God bless, my friends. And with that, until the next time we meet, I'll see you all in the next episode.